What is the hardest 3D Mario level? Now, this is a loaded question, because if you ask anyone, you're more than likely going to get a wide variety of answers. And I did, because I polled the internet and asked people what they thought the most difficult 3D Mario level was, and over 67,000 people responded. Now, when people think of difficult stages, people tend to gravitate towards the last stages in the 3D Mario games. Why? Because they are in an entirely different category. They're such outliers compared to the remainder of the levels because only a small fraction of players will actually put in the extra effort to get to them. Beyond that, having the stage hidden behind a mountain of other stages makes it so you won't be too disappointed since you've already cleared 99% of the game. It's a reward for the most ambitious, and the developers don't have to care as much whether they think every player can beat it. So that's why these levels feel brutal, and can sometimes have cruel mechanics that challenge players. But with all this on the table, how did these levels rank? Let's talk about that. Now, the original goal of this exercise was to take the 4 stages that are considered outliers in the 3D Mario games and pit them against each other. But instead of them being ranked by one person, who has their own unique experiences with each of these games, instead, we'll hive mind the entire concept with thousands of people. I'll be sort of applying usability and logical bias to each stage as we go along, so you have some different perspectives you might not have thought of when it comes to coming up with your own opinion. Of course, the people who voted before had the option to explain their reasoning for what they picked, or to even add a different level suggestion down below. But because YouTube's polling system is naturally biased if given another option, it's no surprise that the first 4 contenders would come out on top. Or, so I thought. The 4 options we have on the table are Special 8 Crown from Super Mario 3D Land, Champion's Road from Super Mario 3D World, Grandmaster Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy 2, and Darker Side of the Moon from Super Mario Odyssey. So let's see what 67,000 people thought about these levels. Coming in 4th place with around 3,500 votes, we have Special 8 Crown from Super Mario 3D Land. Honestly, when I saw this, I was a bit surprised. There's a number of factors that make this level difficult. 3D Land doesn't have the tightest of controls in comparison to other contenders on this list, which adds to difficulty. And the firebar sections in this stage are pretty brutal. I think something super notable is how much harder this level becomes if you choose not to use a Tanuki suit. Being able to hover in the air gives you so much wiggle room, whereas you'll constantly feel punished for normal jumps without it. But why did this rank so low? 3D Land sold a ton of copies. Did people not make it to the level? Is it because people really didn't find it difficult? Was it too short compared to some of the other stages? I'm not here to refute anyone's vote, but I will play devil's advocate. Anyone putting forth a vote will obviously always have bias towards their experiences. For example, I never had a 3DS myself for the longest time, so if someone asked me this, Special 8 Crown might not have even been a contender. Our household was pretty much all consoles and no handhelds. But the funny thing is, technically this didn't come in 4th place on the poll. It was actually 5th compared to people writing in their own response with Other. Other pulled in around 4,800 votes with lots of noteworthy submissions from Super Mario Sunshine. That poisonous lily pad level that took forever to get to, that comment itself got around 630 likes. Then there's always that blasted pachinko machine that everyone just loves, or the unlucky Chuckster level. Before moving on to what came in 3rd, I do think it's really important to talk about what makes something difficult. Difficulty can be measured in precise or dangerous tasks, but also with how much forgiveness you get. Each of these games we're talking about have entirely different forgiveness amounts at play when in the middle of difficult situations. In some games, if you get hit, your abilities drain. Others, you simply get back up and shake it off and hope you don't get hit again. If people raced through Special 8 Crown while flying, it's way easier than if you go through a basic Mario. Either way, it is difficult, but that setup can sway someone's opinion entirely when they are randomly polled to think about which level they thought was more difficult, especially if asked out of the blue several years later, where they don't remember the details, only that they cleared the stage. Moving on to the next hard level at 11,500 votes, 3 times as many as Special 8 Crown, is Darker Side. Darker Side of the Moon is another gauntlet level that pushes Mario Odyssey to its limits. In terms of momentum and player control though, Mario Odyssey is a champion in its own right. The controls of 3D Land added difficulty to challenges, simply because you were using the 3DS to move, on top of it being a bit hard to get a sense of space and depth on the screen in the game. With Odyssey, Mario has so many options for moving that players can really shine in complex situations. But, just to play devil's advocate, which is what I'll probably do for each and every level on this list, Darker Side of the Moon also aids the player quite a bit. Super Mario Odyssey is already a game where by default you get 3 hits, and taking damage doesn't degrade your options. But in the hardest level, they still give the player a full health restore that brings the player to 6 hit points. 6 health goes a long way, especially in the hands of players who are tackling hard challenges like Darker Side of the Moon. Mind you, if you fall to your death, it doesn't matter, but falling in lava lets you sometimes recover. But multiple times throughout the level, you'll be rewarded with a full 6 HP heal. So it is definitely interesting. In terms of length, this stage is pretty darn long, and definitely dwarfs the previous stage we covered. Being the newest of the bunch, it makes you wonder if that played a role too. Darker Side of the Moon is committed to memory whether you played it yourself or watched someone play it online, when the hype for the game was strong. New players to the world of Mario may have voted for this too if Odyssey was their first and only Mario game. If you didn't play all the games, you probably still voted. Odyssey would have the best chance of catching votes from younger Mario fans, so I wasn't surprised to see it get the vote count it did. So whichever stage came in second is also going to let you know what came in first. So how did Champions Road from Super Mario 3D World fare against Grandmaster Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy 2? Well, it didn't. With 12,100 votes, Champions Road barely squeezes into the second place slot just above Darker Side of the Moon. And I'm a bit surprised by this, because I honestly thought Champions Road would have had more of a lead at least. To be transparent, this poll went out on the internet the day Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury released, so 3D World was certainly top of mind and very hyped at the time. Regardless of that potential timing influence, Champions Road only secured 18% of the total votes, which is still pretty good seeing as there are 5 things people could have voted for, and an even split would have been 20%. Champions Road has a lot of difficult sections in it, but by far the part that always broke me was the dash panel part. You're already feeling extremely nervous given you're almost at the end of the level, but this section requires you to make quick choices, otherwise you'll fall off the cliff. You can't really stop and it creates a lot of pressure. In my opinion, it's a pretty cruel final section. So, how about that first place, huh? Super Mario Galaxy 2's Grandmaster Galaxy grabbed a whopping 54% dominance in the poll. 36,200 votes is what pulled the level to the top shelf, and I can understand why. Grandmaster Galaxy is pretty darn difficult, and presents a wide variety of challenges for the player. But is it actually more difficult than the other stages? I don't actually know. Because when most people think of Grandmaster Galaxy, they are judging it from a completionist perspective. If you clear the level normally, then a Daredevil comet shows up and presents the hardest mission in the game, the perfect run. Basically, you have to do the entire level without getting hit once, since your health is dropped to 1 hit point. It's a very brutal challenge, but I do feel conflicted because if a Daredevil option was presented at any of these other stages, how much variance would the poll see in votes? Is the stage that much more difficult, or is it the lack of health? By completionist standards, then wouldn't Champions Road have to include all 5 character completions? That sounds like absolute hell to me. But when you ask an open-ended question about difficulty without laying out all the parameters, you'll certainly get quite a mix of different answers. But with all this said, which do you think is truly the hardest level? I added some rebuttal against some of these choices to get your brains going, but I'd love to hear what stage you think was the most difficult. I enjoyed applying critical thinking to this concept about what makes something truly difficult. And if you love overthinking and learning stuff too, then you should definitely check out Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video. Now you probably heard me talk about Brilliant before. It's a website with a focal point centered around problem solving. And they don't just show you how to solve things, they have you actually do it in a meaningful way that's engaging. With Brilliant, it isn't just about memorizing a concept or equation. It's about looking at the particular concept from a simple point of view that just makes sense. An interactive way that makes you want to learn. Take, for example, algorithms and computer science, one of Brilliant's many offerings. Typical learning methods can be off-putting, but Brilliant cleverly presents the concepts in a visual form that helps you understand the cause and effect of the code on screen. Learning is a lot less intimidating this way, and in my opinion, a lot better. So if you're ready to try Brilliant for free and get 20% off a year of STEM learning, go to brilliant.org/SwankyBox or click the link in the description below. And a big thanks to Brilliant for continually supporting my YouTube channel and game development projects, as it is greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll see you all soon. Cheers!